We're back.
Hello, everyone.
Happy New Year.
Yes, for sure. I hope you all had a very great holiday and enjoyed the time with friends and family.
Yes.
It was hopefully somewhat peaceful and relaxing. My name is Jennifer Dixon with Thrive Yoga and Wellness, and today
I am Merrit Plumb with Thrive Yoga and Wellness and the Energy Center. I offer integrated energy medicine.
Oh, beautiful. That's a really good 60-second, what is it, tagline?
I
Very
used
good.
to say I'm a jack of all trades energy worker, and nobody knew what that meant either.
I like integrated. That makes it sound super.
Because I just use so many different tools.
Oh, it's beautiful. So if you haven't had the chance to let Merrit work on you, it's a life-changing experience. It's truly remarkable.
And if you're a member of Thrive Yoga, I do meditation on tonight and on Wednesday nights. So we would love to have you join us for that. And you get some energy work, but mostly just a guided meditation and some sound healing. So
it's 7:45 on Wednesday nights, and we're trying to work on getting Merrit and Stephanie Chance.
Yes, we're going to be doing a Reiki infused sound immersion at some point, maybe either end of this month or February.
Yeah,
on a Friday or Saturday. So
I may be uncomfortably pushing both of them to schedule something.
yeah, she won't leave us alone.
No. But
somebody help me.
You know you love it. You know you love it.
I do.
So we are into the brand new year, brand new decade, 2020. The vision is clear, right? Like
well, today's vision is clear.
Yes, for what we're going to do.
Today is really all we have.
Yeah, that's true.
So we're going to stay flexible.
I love it.
But we talked about all the chakras and we've talked about all of the elements, and we want to share with people stories and characters and these weird like elephant guys that we see in yoga, and share some of those stories with you and use them for our inner growth.
Yeah. So after the last 90 days challenge, we were trying to determine where we should take this weekly meeting, because despite what she says, we both really love doing this. It's a lot of fun. It's fun for at least me personally, because it's like every week I know I get to escape over to hang out with Merrit.
And I know once a week I'm going to get to see your face at least.
Yeah, and for me, I'm in the throes of like two little kiddoms. So yes. I don't get the opportunity to think about things outside of like very superficial, is snow hot or cold? And that's beautiful. This is a beautiful season, don't get me wrong. So when we were trying to determine, like, how do we keep this going? How do we keep this going? What can we do? Whatever it was, I wanted it to give me at least 30 minutes or an hour of opportunity to dive a little deeper. And you can look online on YouTube on just a typical Google search. You can find all sorts of stuff about yoga. And, we have yoga videos on our YouTube channel, and we offer yoga tutorials. I love doing that as well. But what I haven't found much of is when you dive into some of the stories behind the yoga practice. I use the word stories because that might be a little safer, maybe. I also think of it as kind of like the mythology, if you will, about the yoga poses, which are beautiful.
Which are rooted in a mystical tradition, really.
I love it.
And over here in the West, we tend to stay on the physical side, but we're trying to bring the deeper side in. And you can apply these things to whatever your beliefs are. They're stories for growth. I had a really good word for it, and I've lost it.
Well, when it comes back, bring it up. You can shoot it up in the middle of the conversation.
Right.
So our goal here is to, when you are doing your physical yoga practice, your asanas, maybe your meditation, to maybe think about some of these stories that we're bringing in and we're discussing and we are exploring ourselves.
Right.
For you to think about how you can incorporate that as a lifelong lesson. Like an Aesop's fable, there was always a lesson, right, into what was going on. And just like in the stories of these, in the Hindu mythology, there's always a lesson. I was reading a book, and I'll try to make sure to link it down below, recently, that said it beautifully about the Hindu religion. The stories that were discussed and told to the people, because remember that today everybody reads, right? Like
Right.
you and we are blessed to be able to have this public education system, which we're not going to get political. We can read. Back in the day, several thousand years ago, not everyone could read. So the way that they were able to pass down this information was verbally.
Right.
And it's no different in India than it was in any of the other ancient cultures.
Right.
Like in Indian cultures, it was the stories, and the stories made it personal
Right.
for the people, that even though they couldn't read about it, they could still conceptualize and visualize and become one with, if you will, the idea of these principles that are being told.
Right. Not so different from the Bible stories in the West. They're stories that have truths and, insight and wisdom, and they show that through a story.
Yeah. And the thing about it is we learn so much better with stories. Like, I will probably not remember the most of the individual lessons, throughout school, but the stories that came with the lessons, I remember.
Yes.
And so that's the whole point in these upcoming talks, is we want to talk about stories that resonate with us at the time. And of course, if you have any questions about some of these stories, definitely leave some comments down below. Be sure to subscribe to our channel. We've recently had a lot of growth.
Yes.
Woo-hoo!
Thank you.
Yes, we appreciate it. This past month, I think we grew almost one a day.
Nice.
Well,
Thank you for being with us.
Yeah, and thank you for watching all the hours. So the point of this next several weeks of this series, what did we want to call it? Sacred Spaces?
Well, that's kind of what I was thinking we could call our little talks.
Oh, okay.
Because we're always talking about the inner self, the deeper self, the other side, and that's a sacred space. And today's story that we're going to share is going to be a perfect segue into that, because yoga on a much deeper level is about getting you in touch with the divinity within, or the inner self, or the isness. And so this story today is about that. So as you think about your physical practice, you can dive deeper, because yoga always gives you the possibility to do that, whether you're doing hot yoga or restorative yoga or really mystical types of
meditating,
yoga.
pranayama, it all connects you in with the deeper self. So a little bit of backstory. One of my favorite things to do is get to go practice with my teacher, Manju. I get to go practice with him in about a month. And part of the training is story time. He always does story time. And the next video that we'll link to after this one is a story time with Manju, where he tells us this story. And I asked Merrit if she was okay with us starting out this mini series, if you will, with this story, because I felt like it aligns really well with what we are all trying to do, kind of diving in. And so basically we're going to call it, we decided to call it where the soul is hidden, right?
It's a Hindi story about the soul being hidden.
Yep. And the story of the soul. So do you want to tell the story? You might be a better storyteller.
Well, I'll try. You know the story better than I do, but I've been exploring it a lot over the last few days, and it's basically that Brahma believed that the people were abusing their divinity, because at this time everyone was a god, and that the lower gods, as they call it in the story, were abusing their divinity. So Brahma decided to hide it. And he called some of the gods together, and they were saying, where are we going to hide it? And one of them would say, let's hide it deep in the earth. And he was like, no, they'll just dig down and find their divinity there. And another god said, well, let's hide it on the highest mountain. And he said, no, they'll climb there and find it there. And another one of the gods said, let's bury it deep under the ocean. And he said, no, they'll swim down and find it there. And tell me if I'm leaving anything out. And so the lower god said, well, we don't know where to hide the divinity. And Brahma said,
he's sitting back thinking, he's struggling because it's a dangerous thing to lose tap of your true self, your true worth. And so he's sitting back here like, what am I gonna do? And what do you decide?
He said, we will bury it deep within them. They'll never look there.
They'll never look there. They'll never look inside themselves to find their soul.
And so ever since then, we've been digging and climbing and diving, looking outside of ourselves for this great temple that's within.
That's already there. We already have it.
Right.
And that leads to, it's like breathtaking, right? Like we don't have to search anymore. We have the capacity, everything.
We already are it.
And if you think about it, we can go down a kind of a sad note about how many people we know that are continuing to look for something. They're like, there's got to be something else. What is out there? What else is there? And that lack of contentment. And, I love America. We're blessed to be Americans, but we are also very blessed to have everything. When you're blessed to have everything, that's all you want is more. That's all you want is more. So my family goes down to Cuba once or twice a year, and each person is allowed to bring like 50 pounds without having to pay astronomical luggage fees. And everybody brings 50 pounds worth of stuff. And this isn't like stuff like candy bars or silly stuff,
Right.
like silly strings. Like this is stuff that you and I would take for granted.
Right.
Stuff like soap. One of the things that they have a hard time getting is soap, shampoo, toothpaste, toothbrushes. Like when was the last time you went to the store to find a toothpaste? Like there's a whole aisle
True.
of different types of toothpaste. And here we are just 90 minutes south of an American state. People can't even get toothpaste. And so here we are always searching, and we have everything. And whereas the family that I have down there, they recognize that they don't have everything, but they don't have internet. Like they don't have internet, but they still are so happy and they love hanging out with us. And it's these simple things like spending time together, and it's this true happiness because they don't have all these other things that make them want to have more. Don't get me wrong, I don't want to live in Cuba. I love air conditioning.
Right. Me too.
And I love my supply of toothpaste.
But you're right. I mean, overconsumption is a huge thing in the United States, and then you think about these other countries, and you go in their store, and like I've heard people say, there's like one loaf of bread. Mm-hmm. There's one kind of bread, and maybe a couple of fruits. And like you go in our grocery stores, and it's just every kind of fruit you can imagine, and there's a loss of balance.
It's true.
And it's like, why can't we spread that out, throughout the world? And it takes you away from, but just that simple reflection on that compassion for another human being brings you back into your divinity.
Correct.
Back into that sacred space.
That's the beauty of this thought train that we're on. It's like, crap, no, I don't have the newest car. I would love to have a bigger car to fit all of my stuff in,
And all your kids.
And all my kids in, right? But you know what? I have a car that
That's
runs,
right.
and it's paid for. And there are so many people that don't. And so rather than looking out at these things that I don't have, stopping and the gratitude for what we do have, that makes it go from this to this, and thankfulness and love, like the Grinch's heart got 3 times too big. Mm-hmm. Spending that time introspectively and being grateful and thankful for the things that we have. Right. It just points even more into we are okay.
Yeah, and the gratitude and the understanding of the blessings and the being grateful for what you have is where that divinity moves from within you. And so the more we can stay connected to that mindset and that presence, the deeper our practice is going to get. And that's one of the things that meditation helps you do. That's why meditation is important because it gets you quiet enough that hopefully you can start to realign with your divinity, which is the ultimate element. We talked about all the elements. Divinity is the ultimate element. And so I was wondering how, though, Brahma thought that the divinity was being abused. Like, how do we abuse our divinity? Because this story, I've studied a lot of the Vedics and the Vedas, and this story is very not in alignment with that older, also Hindi based.
Oh, really?
Yeah. That your divinity is never away from you. The only thing that separates you from it is your thoughts and yourself and your ego, which is along the lines of how I believe. But I'm still learning about Brahma.
Well, okay, let's think about it, and because I don't know the answer here. So if the only thing that separates you is your thoughts, your ego, and your beliefs, so an abuse of that, right, would be
anything that separates you from God.
And so,
like, the Vedics don't necessarily believe in sin. They believe in things that are in alignment with that divinity or out of alignment with that divinity. And, you know, if you consider yourself like a drop in the ocean, you know, a single drop will dry up and absorb into the sky, right? But if you're one with the whole ocean, you're mighty and strong. You know, you're connected to that. I'm using the ocean as for divinity or God. And you're looking at me like I'm going off.
No, I don't think so. I'm trying to reconcile what you're saying and figure out if I can agree where we can find the commonality. So I think in this regard, why Brahma put it inside of ourselves and where that whole,
he wanted to hide it.
Well, because we couldn't, the people, the lower gods were taking advantage of it or abusing it. So how do we abuse ourselves now? And I mean, I'll be the first one to admit I should probably only have one square of chocolate at a time, you know, but every now and then, by golly, I'm having 3, you know, and that's a really silly situation, but we have so much abuse of this temple.
The temple.
So from my perspective, this is temple, and my spirit is within me, and I have to honor this temple because this is where God lives in me. So how do we abuse that? How are we abusing that is how we abuse ourselves, whether it's the thoughts that are terrible thoughts, and we have to hold
self-hatred,
hold captive these thoughts. Whether it is the things that we do to our bodies, you know, and there can be abuse on your body, like over exercising, and the abuse of just sitting and gluttony, you know, like, and to me, that's how we abused it, because we were given this free will, and we were given the ability to make these decisions on our own, and with all of that freedom, sometimes things could get lost. There's stories in the Bible where the Egyptians were finally freed, not the Egyptians, the Israelis were finally freed from the Egyptians, right? And they had been under bondage for 400 years. Moses comes and is the person that God uses to show all of these miracles, and everybody sees it. And I mean, these are like crazy. It had to be divine how these miracles happen. Israelites get to go free. And then in a matter of months, they want to go back to slavery because they have freedom and they don't know what to do with themselves.
There's a similar story in the Reiki teaching too, where when he comes back from his receiving the Reiki symbols and goes back into the town to heal, that there was a revolving door with some of the people who were sick, because if they were well, then they had to do stuff they didn't have to do if they were sick. So there was that revolving door. And, you know, I mean, again, you're talking about the free will, so that came up.
Yeah, but that could be why it was hidden here, because the fact of the matter is we are humans, and so as Americans, we're always going to want more because that's what's being shoved down our throats.
Well, we're always looking outside of ourselves.
We
Consumption is just another sign of, that we feel like we need something outside of ourselves to make us whole.
We keep going out instead of in.
Yes.
And so maybe I don't think of it as a sneaky, this isn't Brahma-like behavior. I think of it more as he's outside looking down. People are naturally, we're going to self-sabotage in some way, shape, or form. I mean, it's January 7th at the time of this recording, and I haven't given up a single thing. Everybody. So rather than make it impossible, take away the free will, give them the opportunity to find it by going in. Mm-hmm. So people are going to be people. That's our makeup, maybe our divine nature, and it's the individual choice. Yes. To make that decision to be like, no, I'm not going to do this. I want to figure out how to make this better, everything in here better.
Right.
And so to me, that stays in line with the overall theme of the Hindu mythology and religion. It's coming back here.
Yeah. Right. And it's the same thing as the kingdom of heaven lives within you. It's just a different culture saying the same thing.
Different way of expressing, and it's all of them are beautiful.
Oh yes,
all of them are beautiful.
Yes, that are based on love and compassion, and most spiritual texts are, and it's all about going into that inner temple, finding the kingdom of heaven within. And one of my favorite India gurus is Sabotage, and he wrote a book that was called I Am That, talking about the divinity within. And it was this really long book, and you go all the way through it. It's really powerful just to get to 3 words at the end. And the 3 words are, I am God. Well, that sent the West on a tailspin, and all these, I guess he was over in the United States touring, and, all these, what do you call the people that do the cameras?
Cameramen?
Yeah, the cameramen. They were trying to get him on the news. Trying to make him look crazy that he was saying, I am God. And all these people were protesting, And so one of the journalists went up to him and said, are you God? Making fun of him. And he said, yes, and so are you. And what I understood from it was that the whole crowd quieted down, and he started talking about, that regardless of what your religious affiliation is, that spirituality urges you inward, always to remember that the temple is within. And so, I found it. Brahma didn't hide it from me.
Well, he hid it, but you found it.
I'm not saying that I stay there.
Yeah, no, that's...
But I know that deep within me that's where the wellspring is.
But when you can tap into it,
yes.
So from my perspective, that the Holy Spirit is within me, Jesus, that's my divinity, Jesus
right. Christ
within me.
Exactly.
And so from that perspective, I may self-sabotage. That doesn't mean he leaves. That doesn't mean
never leaves.
Exactly. He's right
you
here.
You separate yourself from it.
And that's the beauty of that introspection. That's the beauty of this practice.
Right.
Because it shuts out all these other things that separate us
right.
and forces us back to our divinity.
And the true yogi lives from that place. Lives from that place of presence. And, I'll go out and I'll just within a matter of 30 minutes be like, but they can stay in that place.
And that's hard to come by.
Well, is it hard or is it easy? That's just a thought that separates us from our divinity.
That's a deep thought.
I mean, we make it hard, but does it have to be can we simplify ourselves to the point, that we get all that external junk on and really live from that place? And then what would the world look like if enough of us could do that?
When we were on our honeymoon many years ago, my husband and I went to Turkey, and we went to the places with the rugs or whatever, and all these girls are hand knotting all these rugs on these looms that were amazing, and they can't make a perfect rug. There has to be an imperfection in all the rugs, because the only thing that's perfect is Allah, because it's a Muslim country.
Okay.
And so your thought, your statement right there immediately made me think the only person that's perfect is God, you know. And so we are ever striving to be that way, but we in a fallen world.
In that image.
We are.
And so when we can let the things of the world go and live in alignment with that, our original nature that was born in that image, that's this divinity that we're talking about.
And how do we stay there? And I think as long as we're on this earthly plane, there's going to be things tugging at us.
Oh yeah.
And it's our job to recognize.
They're tricksters.
They are the tricky people. That's like what we're trying to.
I call them the little people, but that's a whole different video. We won't go there today.
But it's true. There are the tricksters trying to get us out of our peace, and that can go into some of those elements that we talked about, or even the chakra alignment. Like, what takes that peace away? What makes the wind too much, or the fire too much, or keeps us not connected with it? And that's what we need to stay away from, and stay close to that which builds the peace.
Well, and I've studied the Tao. I spent a year. I did every verse and tried to live by it, and it's all about living in harmony with those elements and in alignment with nature and your own like developing your own nature, so that, you know, we can control that fire. We can, you know, harness the wind, and just living in harmony with all the elements.
Interesting.
I love the Tao. So, well, that was certainly a deep way to start off the year.
What do you guys...
I could talk about this all day.
I know, right?
So, yeah, what would you guys like to hear about? Or is there any part of yoga, culture, or mythology that you don't understand that you would like to know about?
Or what did you think about the story of where the soul is hidden? And did it move you and cause you to stop and think for a minute? That's one of my favorite stories that Manju tells in his workshops, and he doesn't tell it every single time, but he tells it quite frequently. And I guess that's kind of like a bedtime story for kids in India. You know, like my kids go to bed with David and Goliath or whatever, and it's so simple and beautiful that a little kid can understand it. But then here we are, 45 minutes, and we're still pondering the depth at which that little story can go.
Philosophy. That's what I wanted to say about the stories. We're going to share the philosophy.
Oh, the word came!
Yeah.
I love it.
Squirrels!
But this is the beauty of the conversation. Here's the thing that I definitely want to say before we go. It's okay to have a different opinion than us. It's 100. And you know what? I don't think it's hating if you have a different opinion.
No.
And in fact, I think it's beautiful that Merrit and I, we can be such wonderful friends, and we still have slightly different opinions on things. Mm-hmm. And
oh wait, what are you? Wait a minute, you've never told me you're.
And so, but that's the beauty of it. So when you are listening to this, I hope that it causes you to think. I hope it makes you be like, oh, what a cool story, or how do I feel about it? And then go ahead and drop us some comments down below.
Yes, we would love to hear from
and
you.
We'll respond to all of them. And who knows, we might even like talk about a comment down below.
Or we may have you on the show.
Oh, that would be even more cool.
Spaces. Jennifer will find out where you live.
We will. And if I can't get to you, we can like zoom you in.
Yes.
And we're like maybe we can put like a person here.
We'll have an avatar.
Oh yes, good one. So leave comments down below. Don't worry, I don't think it is hate if you disagree with what we say.
No.
In fact, I think it's beautiful. I think it's a wonderful thing about this human experience, if you will, that we all get to take the life that we've each been given and interpret these stories into such a way that it's meaningful to bring us close to the divinity, if you will. And so go ahead. First of all, subscribe to the channel. Second of all, come to Thrive Yoga and Wellness. Merritt's going to be doing a meditation about this tonight at 7:45. And if you're not in the Chattanooga area, you can find us at thriveyogaandwellness.com.
Or the Energy Center, ENGER. How do you spell it? Energy Center is CNTR.com.
If you'd like to work with Merrit. And yeah, the most important thing is if you don't get anything else out of it, spend some time in some self-exploration.
Yes.
And see what happens. Any time that you spend on yourself is not time spent in vain.
Yes.
It's a beautiful thing, and you might be surprised at what comes up.
And we appreciate having you with us here in the sacred space.
Yes.
I'm going to bully you into that name.
I like the sacred space name.
Thank you for being with us. We hope that you received what you needed today.
That's
and
right.
until next time.
Y'all go in peace. Namaste.